What if there was a science to you matching the frequency of your dream reality? What if the abundance you want, the love that you want, a reflection of your life, the health, the opportunities, and the people you attract into your life was simply a matter of you matching a certain frequency that already exists? And what if it was taking out all the challenge that comes with trying to create something? So it's not even that you have to create it, you just have to match it. Now, in 2017, when I learned what I'm about to share with you in this video, I very quickly went from working at a 9-to-5 job on women's shoes to being a full-time YouTuber. Within 6 months, I had 100,000 followers on YouTube. I had put in my 2 weeks notice and got to quit a 9-to-5 job I was not passionate about, selling women's shoes. And even more recently, I've used this to go from being in a certain familiar box that I realized I created myself in, to running live events and becoming a new version of myself. And what if the love that you attract into your life is, first off, met with the energy that you are embodying right here in the present moment? So you must feel the love. You must perceive the love within your energetic field for you to perceive it on the outside. And what if it were very simple for you to do this? Now, recently, there was this social media, like it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, this video that shows that in reality, we can match the frequency of what we want, and that's just the way reality works. There's a gentleman who is using a tuning fork, and he is hitting this tuning fork, and it is showing that once he hits it at the frequency of this other tuning fork, it begins to vibrate, it begins to resonate, and you want to think of the reality you want to experience in your life, as you must match the frequency of the reality. Imagine there's like many tuning forks, and if you want to experience the reality where you are in a loving relationship, where you are in abundance, where you are doing what you love full time, you must match the frequency of it. And then you can perceive and experience the vibrational resonance with that reality. So this isn't about necessarily wanting it. This isn't about putting it on a pedestal. This isn't about making things very important. This is about understanding that the version of you want to experience already exists. And that was one of the first key points of matching the frequency of my dream reality back in 2017. I had to realize that I am here right now working a job I'm not passionate about, but there is a version of me that is a full-time YouTuber. So what I began to do is to look at the frequency of that version of me. Now, the frequency was how that version of me was thinking, feeling, and acting. Like, what kind of action was that version of me taking? What kind of habits did that version of me have? What kind of skills did that version of me learn? And this is, by the way, using the imagination, which is one of the first keys to the principle of you matching the frequency of your dream reality. The bridge to it is your imagination. It is using your imagination to connect to the frequency of that dream reality. If we talk about Neville Goddard, if we talk about one of my favorite books that helped me become very successful, it's called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. It's an old school book, but it talks about using the imagination to view yourself and to begin to believe it is possible for you. It's almost like you're able to try on the frequency of your dream reality when you do this. So when it comes to imagining the version of you that is the highest self version of you, the version of you that's thinking, feeling, and acting equal to the reality you quote-unquote want, you realize, first off, it already exists. But secondly, you begin to match the frequency of it. And that's what I did in 2017 when I began to think, feel, and act equal to a full-time YouTuber. And I realized that the full-time version of me wasn't making videos only once every 2 weeks. I realized that that version of me was making a video every single day on YouTube. Think about the things you do every day. They change your sense of identity. Like, if you were to right now start going to yoga, doing Bikram yoga, when you go, they tell you, you need to come for a week to know if it's for you. So after 2 or 3 days, you keep going. Okay, I want to know if this is for me. Then you buy a yoga mat because you're tired of renting a sweaty yoga mat. You might buy some, like, yoga clothes. And then you start to see yourself as a yoga person. Your identity begins to shift. So whatever you do consistently begins to shift the frequency of your identity. So in 2017, when I started to make daily videos, my identity started to shift, and it started to shift. And there were still blocks. There was still the old part of me. You see, the frequency of your dream reality and the frequency of your old reality are going to be kind of like, for a while, interloped, and you're going to get this want and this like wanting to be in this new frequency, but there's going to be an old part of yourself that fights for familiar childhood patterns from the past. It fights for limitation. What will people think of me? Am I credible enough? Oh, everything has to be perfect. These things will come up. Fear will come up. But it's understanding that the fear is coming up because you are getting ready to shift into a new frequency, and that new frequency is the unknown. And this blocks so many people from matching the frequency of the reality they want, which simply means you're stepping into a new version of yourself. And what holds back is, there's a fight for familiar. This is why some people may be in certain types of relationships that are narcissistic, or someone's controlling them. Then they may start to break away, but then start to feel fear because they're so used to the familiar pattern of someone having power and control over them. But you have to have the courage to step into something new. You have to have the courage to say no to something that you know is maybe toxic for you instead of fighting for it. That 9-to-5 job I had in 2017, there were toxic patterns of that 9-to-5 job that were very familiar to me. Corporate politics, management that would talk down to people, and having to beg for the schedule that you want. These were all like literally the whole time at Barney's New York before they went out of business. Because I left and then 1 or 2 years later, they went out of business. We were trying to get a union because there was so much like trickle down of like a manager that was just having power issues. We were all fighting against it, and then we tried to get a union in there, and then I ended up leaving. After that, the union didn't go through because we had to get like 27 votes for it and against it. Because one thing they did, it's funny, one thing they did is they called in these people that came to like kind of brainwash us, talking about why the union is bad and why you don't want a union and all this stuff. So we were required to go to these stupid meetings. We get paid commission. So for 2 hours listening to some guy like brainwash us to like not do the union. It was interesting. One of the guys looked exactly like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, he even sounded like him. And I was like, do you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is? And he was like, I get told I look like him a lot. I'm like, you look exact. And he sounded just like him. He's like, one time he went to go speak at an event or something like that. He went to do something. He was staying at a hotel for doing the same brainwashing union thing because that's what he gets paid to do. And Neil deGrasse Tyson just so happened to be there, so he was getting swarmed with people. It was crazy how much this guy looked like him. But anyway, I was talking. I remember one thing I remember was we were going to these meetings. All the managers went out that night and they celebrated. But it was very clear to me because there was a brainwashing that was happening, which also, back when I was a kid, that was a very common thing. In corporate politics, things aren't fair. That was the core story. See you in the future video, and thanks for watching.